Hello my MMA homies, welcome to part 2 of the Diego Sanchez / Joshua Fabia saga. In this video, we'll be examining how a complete lack of self-awareness, from the guru of the school of self-awareness, contributed to the downfall of UFC Hall of Famer, Diego Sanchez. After 16 years with the organization, Diego Sanchez has been released from the UFC prior to his final fight. The UFC would go on to pay Diego as if the fight happened, and promptly release him. Many in the MMA media would go on to blame the unceremonious end of his UFC career on his coach and manager Josh Fabia. When we last left off, Fabia and Sanchez were in the midst of a media storm. And in that storm, a pattern would emerge. The two would talk to an MMA reporter, and once Fabia was questioned about his methods, he would try his best to alienate the interviewer and the audience. Often by spamming journalists with messages after, and even going so far as to threaten them.
Well, the last time I had him on my show, no joke, no cap, 30 straight text messages afterwards. And let me tell you, bizarre freaking text messages, threatening text messages.
To you?
Yes, to me.
This seems like a good place to poke further holes into Fabia's storied background. Back in 2019, Diego was quoted saying, "Fabia was an Army Ranger, he became a contractor, he was working with the feds, and he trains government spies worldwide." Fabia is more careful and ominous in describing his background, going so far as to claim that he's signed NDA agreements and that he's been shot and stabbed, but providing no specifics. A check into Fabia's military background reveals that his military experience is at the very least embellished, and quite possibly, entirely falsified. While Fabia did in fact work on Sistema with South American military organizations, publicly available documents from the Department of Defense seem to indicate Fabia spent a total of 2 months in the Army National Guard. Moving on. Gaslighting seems to be somewhat of a specialty of Fabia's. Interview after interview, Fabia tries to conflate himself being ridiculed by Joe Rogan months earlier to the treatment MMA casuals are giving Diego for choosing to win via DQ. He even goes so far as to infer the UFC are employing bots to harass Diego online.
And he handled it great when you figure out that most of that energy and all that stuff is bots and bullshit. And when you then can take the emotion out of it, because no real person would ever say any of this shit.
That's the truth.
Then on top of it, when we see the $500,000 smear campaign to discredit me, decharacterize me.
Contrary to these claims, this video isn't sponsored by the UFC. If you would like to see more videos like this one, please do consider liking, sharing, commenting and subscribing. Moving on. This sudden influx of commenters would be used by Fabia to validate claims that there was a big conspiracy against Diego and that he was being persecuted by the UFC.
And that goes for you, Aljo. Maybe you need to be careful and be wary about running your mouth and letting them take advantage of your mind, as those comments are not real. Nobody's wasting their time doing that, Aljo. Just like I had to explain to Paul Felder, nobody really wants you to kill yourself. Those comments aren't real. Those are coming from some power to manipulate your mind. And when you understand that, you won't allow it.
Rabid internet commenters would also provide a convenient excuse to move content to OnlyFans.
We don't have any of that hate on OnlyFans. I don't think the Bellator guys are getting any hate. I don't think the One Championship guys are getting any hate. It's just interesting how much hate the UFC guys are getting. Because I know the Brave guys don't get any hate. Isn't that interesting? So if the real fans of the sports are participating, saying nice things, why can't we track the IP address of all these negatives? Because it was interesting when I did the cyber investigation, what they explained to me is they got to know what they're doing to be able to randomly roll those IP addresses constant like that. And it has to be something with real money, because there ain't that many trolls at home with no life like that. There just isn't. That's too directional, right? Mm-hmm. Come on. So as working in special operations, wouldn't you call that terrorism? So it looks like terrorism, domestic, on your own people. Woo!
Move to OnlyFans would mean not only moving Diego to a different platform, but also merging his online presence with Fabia's School of Self-Awareness.
And we're working on School of Self-Awareness on the daily. And so please give us a follow on the OnlyFans. When you go to OnlyFans, you know, you're gonna see more than you ever would see on Instagram or IG, because Instagram and IG, you know, they're a money system. And if you ain't paying them money, they're not letting your posts get seen.
I simply took the same content that was on YouTube that YouTube was not allowing to be seen, put it on OnlyFans, and we got almost 90,000 subscribers.
Let's talk metrics. In a previous interview, Sanchez had shared he had gained 90,000 fans on his OnlyFans in just 3 months. And on his Instagram, Sanchez has 308,000 followers. So imagine my surprise when I did the math and it revealed a significantly different picture.
And when I say we, it's because it is 50-50. As I am training Diego, I'm in there. So it just is what it is, man. I'm part of the background. Sad face.
When we take into account the engagement rate and the type of posts on there, it seems reasonable to suspect the majority of the profit comes from the platform itself sponsoring Diego, which makes this money split even more dubious.
My OnlyFans, which is a verified account, a verified internet, where it's really me. You know, it's not a sexual thing. It's a non-sexual. It's real content. It's all my behind the scenes content. And these are real fans, real people. One place, the only place that I found is OnlyFans, and it has nothing to do with sexual. This is a non-sexual site for me and what I do on there.
And further, are the fans on there actually real? On any typical post, you will recognize 2 to 3 commenters. This balanced individual, being one. And Katie, a fellow OnlyFans celebrity. And last but not least, School of Self-Awareness fan, Glowbeam 2. While the majority of the public believes Fabia is financially exploiting Sanchez, Sanchez does not. Because the two don't actually have a contract.
No, we've never had a contract. Me and Josh, we're solid. We do each other right. We do what's right. We do what's fair.
A short time later, Fabia added,
because I do more work for free than probably anybody you've ever met.
In a later interview, Fabia clarified he makes 50% of the OnlyFans profit, but didn't chime in on how much he makes on other Diego endeavors. Fast forward to 2020. Due to the pandemic, it seems Sanchez fast-tracked his retirement. Here's what he said in preparation for Jake Matthews' fight.
This may be my last fight, because I don't have any plans of getting a vaccine. You know, like
I'm not either.
Me and Joshua, we're planning our retirement on a mountain, you know, on the other side of the city in the safe place. You know, like so.
But it seems like Sanchez camp was eager to keep the UFC checks coming, even going so far as to ask the organization to employ Diego.
Let's talk about the real thing. Let's just go ahead and put that list aside, and let's talk about a year ago. I was in this office with you, Sean, and I simply asked you, what job offer do you have for Diego Sanchez?
Around this time, it was determined Sanchez would be given his swan song fight against Cowboy and part ways with the organization. Last month, Middle Easy interviewed Diego Sanchez about the Cowboy fight. In this interview, Diego talked about a friend of his that was battling dementia, who he went to see along with Fabia, hoping that their school could alleviate his symptoms. His friend, Spencer.
We've been able to put an amazing camp together, including stopping down in Sylvia, North Carolina, and paying a week-long visit to my good buddy Spencer Fisher, Spencer the King.
Here's where I'll take a detour. Back in January 2021, MMA Fighting published an explosive account of a former fighter Spencer Fisher battling dementia and likely future CTE diagnosis. This article brought a lot of negative publicity to the UFC because the organization was helping Spencer up to their sale in 2016, at which point they stopped returning his messages and cut their costs. This was a big PR problem for the UFC, who was preparing to become a publicly traded company. It seems that around the time of their visit with Spencer, the two also requested Diego's past medical documents from the UFC. because they believed that nobody would hand them over once Diego no longer had an active contract. This would set off the alarm signs in the UFC. On April 30th, Diego Sanchez was pulled from the Cowboy fight and subsequently released. In his release letter, obtained by MMA Fighting, UFC executive Hunter Campbell wrote to Sanchez the decision was based, in part, on your last loss. This decision was made one day after Sanchez declined to certify in writing he was not suffering medical issues related to his brain health. Sanchez and Fabia would go on and release the phone call with Hunter Campbell subsequently.
So I just got a text from someone in my medical department basically saying that you called them for a, quote, formal request for all of Diego's pre-fight medical records, paper copy, all necessary post-fight records, every physician that he has ever been evaluated by. By the way, we have no control over any of that. That's all commission done, so you'd have to make those requests formally with the commission. But more importantly, what the direct quote that I received was, you stated that the, quote, long-term effects of Diego being an MMA fighter were your basis for requesting it. Yeah. So I went through this with Mark Hunt, and here's the reality. If you're concerned or he's concerned that he's having negative effects, then we're not going to fight him. And I'm going to pull the fight right now. And we're going to call it a day, and we'll release him, and he can go do something else with his life. Because I'm not putting anybody in that cage that doesn't feel 100%.
This leak outlined two critical awareness failures from Fabia. Firstly, he was requesting the documents from the wrong organization, and secondly, his basis for the request was listed as being for the assessment of the long-term effects of Diego being an MMA fighter. That same day, the two would also release a video of the fighter meeting that took place in September of 2020 that was supposed to showcase the bias against them.
I just am interested to hear why you wanted Stefan here and why it was important that he's in your corner.
Yeah, no, Stefan is just a big brother to me, man, a good friend of mine, and like myself, he's came full circle with going through the trials and tribulations of life. I like the dynamic of having a giant and a 5'2" guru. You know, it makes the story even better.
Hold this for a second. Hey, real quick, guys, just because you don't know who the hell I am, and you guys have heard a lot of shit talk and all the good stuff. Let's just cut the bullshit on the commentating. No low blows on this guy. No trying to turn the narrative that he's fucking up his legacy and all that weird stuff. We'll hear. And when you respect these two legends, it seems a little disrespectful that you don't recognize that they respect me. And if you're going to be the one telling the narrative, that's on you when I'm getting shit on by the public, by millions of people. Now, if you're going to be here like leveraging off of all this, man, notice I'm on the end of the shitty stick here, and none of you have stood up for anybody that needed to be stood up for. And that's real. You guys are like the tough guys and all this stuff. If nobody's going to... I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't...
This video would captivate the attention of the public due to its meme-worthiness, and ultimately distract from what would otherwise have been a legitimate request by a departing UFC fighter, for copies of his medical history. In spite of the controversy, the guru's ability to spin reality to his victim seems uncompromised.
Sent back the response that they were going to pay me in full and release me. So, of course, the easiest victory of my career, getting paid full win money just to, take a week off, honestly.
I'd say that's pretty good coaching, maybe decent management, right?
In conclusion, Diego's association with Joshua Fabia looks to have cost Diego plenty of fans, money, and respect. But perhaps the greatest cost will be to his legacy. Sanchez and his fans will never receive the opportunity to celebrate his beloved career, with Diego finally laying down his gloves in the center of the octagon. Instead, his career has ended on terms not of his own choosing. The manner in how the Cowboy fight was so unceremoniously pulled from him is surely something that can't sit right for a fighter so beloved by the fans. Having spent a 16-year career across 3 weight classes, Diego has never failed to entertain the fans, from epic fights fans still talk about today, to fighting for the title, to amazing comebacks from the brink of defeat. What made him most endearing to the fans, though, was his never-say-die attitude. His fight record speaks for itself, and is a story of grit and determination. From being the first The Ultimate Fighter winner, To cult victim. Diego's fall from grace is a bizarre story that leaves us with more questions than answers. So, from everyone here watching this video, all the best, Diego. Thanks for the memories. And here's hoping for bigger and better things in the future. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, folks. If you would like to support more videos like this, do consider checking out these products.